Pat, it totally went over my head that they didn't put him in Harlem. But yeah, they're right. We got an entire Netflix series about a dude who was hanging out in Harlem.
Yeah. And I was just saying, if you're a Puerto Rican
fucking
character
Crispus
like
Attucks
White Tiger,
got airtime.
Yeah, we don't. There's black people don't always have to come from Harlem. I'm totally okay with that.
Plus, Pat, do we need to revisit Snap Wilson?
No. I was going to say
there you go.
His original origin is pretty problematic.
It was ladies and gentlemen, Sam Wilson's from Louisiana. We're good.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I was going to say, it's like
his father wasn't a crack dealer and his mom a prostitute. Come on, Christmas.
I was saying that, like, unless you're White Tiger, who's a Puerto Rican character. That was from Harlem.
It's every time people mention a Hispanic character, I'm like, nope, the first Puerto Rican character that I remember, White Tiger. Yep.
Yeah, and they killed his ass off and never brought back a decent version of him.
I think they brought back a female version. They did a female version.
Yeah, was there?
I think so. Yeah.
See, this is why I need you, Pat. I need you, Levi, because when you say deviations from the source material to me, I don't think about that sort of thing. I don't. I go, hey, you know what? I'm really annoyed that when Wanda came out in her original outfit as the Halloween costume, she wasn't wearing a pink tutu underneath where it covers your shoulders. I hate when cosplayers do that and leave her shoulders bare. Wanda wears pink tights over her whole body up to her neck, and cosplayers sometimes they miss that. So thank you guys, because I'm a very superficial piece of shit. There is no good in me, and there never was.
Oh man. And wait, and I have to admit too, like in doing research for this episode, going back to some of the stuff in the comics with the Darkhold, I hadn't read in so many decades, and how it felt like such a horror movie, and it felt so good. I was glad I almost forgot some of the history behind it. I mean, it's really interesting.
Well,
that
the whole Doctor Strange end of the vampires storyline with Hannibal King and Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel, as if she's got a cereal named after her, Captain Marvel, I should say. That storyline was fantastic. As Roger Stern writing that, and you had I know that
Pat, the one thing I'm terrified about these cons reopening is if I ever actually have a chance to get in front of Roger Stern, I literally have to drag a U-Haul behind me of the things I want signed, including the Doctor Strange vampire arc, which is one of my favorite reads.
It's so good.
I don't think I've read that, to be honest, man. I gotta check it out,
dude. So good. You got
Levi. They've since undone it all because hacks.
Yeah.
Although because of that, I did get a beautiful, beautiful bunch of panels of Doctor Doom talking to Dracula on the moon and actually making fun of Dracula, which I will treasure.
Whoa! Which is hilariously funny.
I posted it up. I posted it up as one of my boss moments on Instagram one day. I love that scene. So for that reason alone, I shall allow the nut cutting of the Darkhold. But there's a beautiful. Oh my God! How far in the weeds are we now? This is what happens, Patrick. I warned you.
Whatever, man.
Roger Stern did this gorgeous Doctor Strange run where he teams up with Blade, who is still in green goggles and a leather jacket.
Yep.
And an Abe Lincoln beard.
Yeah.
He teams up with Hannibal King, who was the Ryan Reynolds character in the third movie.
But it's very different in the comics.
It's very different than the character.
I didn't know he's from the comics. I thought it was made for the movies.
He's a vampire who's never tasted human blood.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he survives by drinking cow's blood and shit.
Oh, wow.
He's a
very
great
different
character in the books.
He's very cool.
Yeah.
And Roger Stern writes this beautiful arc where Dracula comes back to New York. He's more powerful than he has ever been. And this is like the Gene Colan Dracula.
Yeah.
In the Marvel universe.
Yes.
And here's the thing. What was great about it, Levi, you really appreciate this. It is when they thread Dracula through all the Marvel books, and it's terrific. He's fighting Doctor Strange. That's the primary arc. But then he shows up in the X-Men and he vaporizes Storm, and it's fucking incredible.
Yes, I remember that. I didn't know it was all connected.
That was because while he was doing that, he was setting up his base of power in Greenwich Village.
Whoa.
He goes, and Bill Sienkiewicz draws this fucking fantabulous.
I remember those covers.
Yeah, and he's wiping out all of his old enemies. He kills poor Rachel Van Helsing, and then in the fucking Thor comic, he bites Sif.
Yeah,
and I remember that cover. That cover's iconic with Sif.
That's Bill. That's a Bill Sienkiewicz cover.
Sienkiewicz.
Yes, Sienkiewicz. Yes, I think I had.
Am I mispronouncing it?
Yeah, it's Sienkiewicz.
It's all right.
It took me 15 fucking years before I heard it spoken aloud when I met
Marc,
him.
In 20-something years, I still to this day cannot spell it. If I try to spell, I've never spelled it correctly.
I can't do it.
Sienwie.
I can't do it.
You want to pause the recording while you look it up, Pat?
No, I think I got it.
Because when I refer to him on social media, I have to Google him, copy and paste it, and then bring it over.
Just so you know, if you're ever at a con and you see Bill, if you bring him a bottle of plain seltzer, he'll love you.
Nice.
Really?
I met him a couple of times.
Plain seltzer.
I met him a couple of times. And that's good to know. I like him.
Well,
he's very personable.
I'll tell you right now,
man.
He talks to everybody. Really cool dude.
Yeah.
He signed that Storm for me. He signed that Dracula Storm for me.
That run is great, and that's another thing.
But here's the deal: they didn't make it. What I love about those
canon, it's not canon,
and it's canon, but they didn't make it into a fucking event. In other words, you didn't sit here and have a little corner box saying Dracula saga continues here. You have to buy these.
But if they did though, it would be so easy to get the trade paperback today.
It just happened though. It just happened.
Yeah.
He was fighting Doc. Because basically what they discover is Stern is a brilliant man.
So good, dude. He's such a
golden
good
god. Golden god. Best run of Spidey.
Best run of Captain America.
Best run of Captain America. I got to go with J.M. DeMatteis for that one, but that's okay. Another podcast.
I know people love J.M. DeMatteis, and I know people love Gruenwald's run, but I'm sorry.
I love them all, Pat. I love them all. I just have a mark.
Yeah.
I started reading during DeMatteis, and then I worked my way back to Stern.
Yeah.
Stern is great on Captain America for plain Jane, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory. I'm saying he's great for good old-fashioned brawling Captain America. It's fucking great. He's got the Baron Blood saga, for God's sake.
Yeah, the fucking Batroc the Leaper and Mr. Hyde. He's got
it's greatness. It's greatness. Absolutely.
Brought back Union Jack.
J.M. DeMatteis wrote the greatest finale to Captain America and the Red Skull ever. And
was that when the Red Skull got cloned his body? And then
that was Gruenwald. That was Gruenwald.
I love that, man.
DeMatteis was actually writing Cap to end Cap. He was writing Cap because then they wouldn't let him do it. Shooter said, you can't. He's like, we're caretakers of these characters. You can't do this. You can't make Captain America a pacifist. He had been leading up to this thing with issue 300 where Cap was realizing, I can't punch all my problems. I have to find a better way. And he came to this realization because the Skull had figured out a way. He used James Monroe, Nomad. He used him to drug Cap and slowly leach the super soldier serum out of his system. So Cap started to age rapidly.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
it. And then he kidnapped all of Cap's old friends. Arnold Roth, one of the first gay characters in comics.
The first openly gay character in comic books.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
10 years before North Star came out.
By the way, and J.M. DeMatteis, somebody had to remind him that they copped Arnie Roth's origin story for Bucky in the Captain America movies. Arnold Roth was the guy who used to pull the bullies off Steve and beat the shit out of him.
Whoa, yeah. I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah. Arnie Roth was Bucky. Bucky was an army brat who walked into Steve Rogers' tent one day.
Bucky was an orphan that basically was owned by the army, which that kind of shit actually happened back in the day.
Yes, he was an army orphan, and he walked in and saw Steve changing one day, which, again, not a great origin story. And what they did was they transplanted Arnie Roth's backstory.
They did a little amalgam. That's cool.
When poor, sickly, polio-stricken Steve was getting the shit kicked out of him, Arnie Roth, this Jewish kid from it wasn't Brooklyn either. He wasn't
Lower
from
East
Brooklyn.
Side.
Lower East Side. Arnie Roth would come over and pull these guys off Steve and give them and beat the shit out of them.
Oh, because that's where Kirby was from. Kirby was from Lower East Side, too.
Lower East Side, yeah.
Now,
it's something that purists get really pissed about with the movies, that they made him from Brooklyn seemingly arbitrarily instead of the Lower East Side.
They made him from Brooklyn.
It's easier to say
Brooklyn's
Brooklyn than Lower East Side
renaissance.
when you got some cutesy dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Brooklyn's having a renaissance. So that's
and also, too, people who don't live in New York know where Brooklyn is. They don't know the Lower East Side.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? You hit it on the head.
To give a plug for some upcoming guests I got coming on in a couple of weeks, Crystal Skillman and Fred Van Lente did a play called King Kirby. It had an off-Broadway run, but they did an audio show version of it. And it's available online now. If you look up King Kirby podcast, you can find it. And it's fantastic. Incredible voice talent. People from Venture Brothers and
I love those guys.
Yeah, whole
Doc
bunch
Hammer.
Really, really great. The guy does the voice of Dr. Orpheus. Does Stanley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's great. The opening scene is Jack talking about getting on the subway and taking the subway around to different boroughs and picking fights so he could learn fighting techniques from other neighborhoods.
Can I say one thing? Before you even said that, on the tip of my tongue, growing up as a comic book artist, when you look at Jack Kirby's fighting style, which basically set the tone for action for Marvel, when you look at how he draws fights and how they carry on, and I you definitely can tell something. It's informed. You're like, this guy definitely has been in his share of fights. You can tell by his artwork. You can tell by somebody. You can tell by the way they depict action if they've been in actual fights or not, and you can see it in his artwork. It's amazing you just said that, because you can see it. I've always felt that way, but now it's good to hear you confirm it.
You know the story about what happened with Jack when he went into the military. His first sergeant was like, "Hey, you're that Kirby guy that draws Captain America, huh?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "All right, great. You're an artist. That means you can draw landmarks and draw maps. You're now our scout." Also, Jack was 5'0",
Oh, shit.
So basically, that's what happened. Kirby went over there and they were like, "Here's a pencil and paper and go crawl behind German enemy lines." And
they handed him the most dangerous job.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And Stan Sakai always said that Jack would tell stories about the war and the details would change sometimes. Like the stories weren't 100% the same, but Jack always killed 4 Nazis. That's the detail that never fucking changed. Jack killed 4 Nazis.
I want a T-shirt of that now. I want a T-shirt of that with the Dan Turpin from Superman animated series face on it. I just started watching that with the kids, and I turned to them and I'm like, this guy did terrible Turpin, Dan Turpin from the Special Police. I'm like, that's Jack Kirby, guys. Like the guy who did Captain. I was like, the guy who did everybody.
Yeah,
like, they made it. They made
the
a
Godfather
character
of comics.
I'm like, they made it. I'm like, maybe except Spider-Man. Let's give Spidey to Steve Ditko, but Kirby still did the cover.
Spidey and Doctor Strange, actually, who are hugely important parts of the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
yes.
There's no doubt.
I said they made him a character in the Superman show, in the comics too. They made Terrible Turpin as his Jack Kirby stand-in.
Well, yeah. Well, Terrible Turpin is from the New Gods originally. It's Kirby from Kirby's New Gods. Which, oh my God! I am so looking forward to Ava DuVernay's version of that.
Well, you're talking to one of the biggest, newest Gods fan ever was. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're cosplay.
He had fucking Walt Simonson chasing him down the halls.
Can I tell you, when I first started cosplay, I'm like, I'm only gonna cosplay Jack Kirby Creations. At first,